Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Can streaming and physical music survive together? Do displays have a flexible future? Why does jobs look like Wolverine? 23. 23? Episode 23 of Apple Slice? This podcast you're listening to?
Oh, yeah, alright, yeah.
Plus, fan feedback on the best watch apps and more. In a delicious and diverse Apple Slice. "100 days or it's free." Tesla's Elon Musk has made a pretty big claim to fix South Australia's power problem, offering to build a battery farm. So what do you reckon about this sort of thing?
I reckon it's pretty cool. Usually, in the past, I haven't thought Musk is like all that in a bag of chips like everyone else does. But I think in this case,
I've never heard that saying before.
You never have?
No.
Well, I thought it would be quite a common one. Jeez, I hate it when these kind of things happen. So, yeah.
That's cool. I like it.
Yeah, I guess all I mean is like everyone holds him on a pedestal, puts him on a pedestal, and usually I haven't really seen eye to eye with that. But I think this kind of a promise is really impressive. But what I liked most about it, I suppose we can get into the details of how it actually all went about. But what I liked about it was right towards the end of all of this coming together, someone said to him, or he like just tweeted out the price of how much it's going to be per kilowatt. And he said, they're moving to an open pricing structure. So I really liked the transparency and how much the deal was going to cost.
Yes, yeah, that was definitely cool that he did that. But I think the coolest thing is that he came out and said this, and then almost, within the same day, Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull was like, yeah, I'm keen to talk about it. And even more so, the South Australia Premier, Jay Weatherill, said that they're committed to wanting a smart, quick solution to the problem. So Elon actually tweeted that he was impressed with that statement. And apparently there's going to be further talks between Musk and Turnbull and Weatherill. So, yeah, I just thought it was, because you commonly refer to, when we're texting each other back and forth, you commonly refer to South Africa as SA, and I immediately think of South Australia because everyone refers to that as SA, so it's like SA fixes SA. So yeah.
I mean, the thing is that, like, before I moved to Australia, South Africa had a huge power problem, which I'm assuming still exists. I haven't heard too much about it, but I even had like an app on my phone that would tell you when there was like going to be a rolling blackout, so you'd know when you wouldn't have power and there was a massive power problem. And given that Elon Musk is South African by birth and lived there for the first sort of 18 years of his life, I would have liked looking back on it if he had this kind of capacity for him to have done something similar there. Although I think there would have been a lot more red tape than a direct, the direct deal that's being done there, that I think is quite transparent with the South Australian government. And I think it's really quite impressive. But yeah, again, I wish he could just step in and solve South Africa's power problems in 100 days or give it to them for free.
Yeah, I didn't realize how involved he was with Australia. That's what seems so random to me. And I was like, okay, cool. And then the politicians are sort of like, all right, yeah, we're pretty keen to talk about it. So anyway, interesting to see what happens there. But also interestingly enough, just recently, South by Southwest. So this is a festival of sorts in America, fair bit of Apple Music action there. So what's this about?
Yeah, so somehow South by Southwest Apple always finds its way into South by Southwest news, and it's commonly, like if you're reading it, you'll see SXSW, which is the abbreviation for South by Southwest. And I mean, in my sort of quick abbreviated way of saying it's basically like this huge brand activations and conferences and music festival all tied into one with like a bit of film and media, and it takes place in Austin, Texas. So yeah, it's been going since 1987. So this is its 30th year. Sounds
it's
crazy.
as old as me.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I only heard of it in the past couple of years, and then when it was pointed out as 1987, I was like, this has existed as long as I have. So
yeah. So it's kind
yeah.
of like there was a few cool music bands or musicians around. So this year they had Spoon, which I think you know. I'm not sure if I know them too well. Marion Hill.
Oh, I've just seen them pop up a fair bit.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And then Marion Hill, which is that song, well, the artist from the song on the AirPods ad, which I actually loved that song. I added it straight away. Asked Siri to tell me about who was singing it. And then Vince Staples
Nice.
and the Chainsmokers. So, they have good music there
It's
too.
quite diverse.
Yeah. So
I thought it was pretty cool. I think the funniest thing was just going on from our little mention of the whole Johannesburg saga. I've been calling the abbreviation of South by Southwest, which is SXSW. I've just been calling it SXSW in my head.
SXSW.
But obviously, yeah, just SXSW. If you try and say the letters together, it's like SXSW. So sounds like some weird little machinery noise, like SXSW. I don't know. Anyway, that's just.
Yeah, that reminds you of there's like an abbreviation similar in South Africa, which is MXM, which basically just translates to, and it's just a clicking of your tongue annoyance, kind of like
Whoa, that's crazy.
shake your head. So I can see how you could have tried to make SXSW into a word.
They commonly call us just South by.
Yeah,
so, yeah. But yeah, so Zane Lowe, who I'm becoming increasingly a fan of, and I know that you're quite a big fan of him. He did an awesome keynote. So I checked this out as soon as they threw up the whole thing on YouTube. So what do you think of this?
Yeah, I thought it was really quite excellent. He drew me in about 5 minutes. I was captivated, and
definitely.
I found him to be a really good speaker. He was really relaxed, comfortable with who he is, not trying to be like an Apple keynote kind of person. He even threw a joke in about how they wouldn't let him have more than one reference to something. I can't remember exactly, but then he was like, "Nah, I'm just kidding." So
that it was more than one montage.
Oh, yep, that's the one.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. So, the one thing that I'd say really stood out was just how truly passionate he is about music, which I find important given that he's pretty much running a whole section of Apple Music's efforts in Beats One, and we assume one day being more than just Beats One and probably opening up to different genres and stuff. So he's really passionate about music. And the other interesting thing was he gave like a really different perspective on the revolution in the music industry. So he spoke from a music insider's perspective, but not from the record labels, not from the musicians, which I think we've all heard a lot about, or a lot from. And then it was also not from it was not entirely from a consumer's point of view, because he made his money from these artists and bringing them to the people. So it was really interesting to see how that changed, and how he was saying he just lost 1 million listeners just basically overnight, or effectively.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And that was kind of crazy. So yes, that was really interesting perspective, which I had never really thought about before. But I think for me, the thing that hit home the most was he spoke a lot about being a kid in Auckland, and how when he was growing up, they were really far behind in getting music, having access to music, and, they'd wait months. They wouldn't really have good access to it, which for me resonated a lot with growing up, and, especially when I could afford it, having access to Apple products, because in South Africa, they are released so much later.
Yes.
Usually for me, it was like 4 or 5 months and with no word in between. Like the thing is, in Australia, we always know exactly when we're getting it. If it's not first run, we'll know it's in second run and when that is. Whereas that just doesn't happen. You know, the device is announced. You go walk into a store and it's like, when are we getting it? I don't know. And it's like, so that can be really frustrating, and you'll just check the website over and over. And that for me, like, drew me in when I saw him speaking about that from a music perspective, and because I could identify with that. So I really, really liked it. I actually liked it more than I thought I would, and I would recommend that anyone who somewhat likes music would go listen.
Oh, I think his delivery is awesome. He has his own unique style. I mean, obviously being a radio presenter, he's very clear and to the point and has a great voice, but the whole thing flowed kind of like some cross between him sort of rapping and slam poetry. Like, he had this real kind of passion and emotion behind it, but the whole thing just flowed really well, and he kind of threw in little bits of humor and everything, and I thought that was great. I've hardly ever listened to Beats once, so this has been a great kind of Zane Lowe experience for me. So, I just loved his stories, how, as you said, how his life just intertwined with the progression of the industry. He had that quote that he said about Foo Fighters' Dave Grohl telling musicians to embrace technology in music rather than trying to just do it the old way. I thought that was really important, particularly as we're going to discuss soon about, you know, streaming audio and stuff. And yeah, particularly as you said, the way he described growing up in Auckland and him telling us about his dad's rebel radio station. That was just amazing, I thought. And I just like the fact that I assumed just with a lot of the artists that they're pushing in Apple Music that he would kind of only reference hip hop R&B artists, but he flipped back and forth between like rock and other different genres. And I loved when the story he had when he was trying to identify what was that song. I heard the best song in the world, and that was Nirvana. And I thought, this is excellent. And particularly, he's just dropping different type of acts that he listens to, and he throws in a Deftones. So I was like, heck yeah. So they're one of my favorite bands. So I was really pumped on that. And it really made me appreciate how much he is actually into just music in general, like not specific genres. He's just a real, like, music is his whole life. And I thought the funny thing, I was trying to read between the lines, but he dropped some references about Jay-Z, Kanye, and Beyonce. And I was like, they're all on Tidal. Could this mean a Tidal purchase? So, yeah.
I don't know if it points to anything.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously pivotal people in the industry, particularly, you know, in the last, say, 15 years. But yeah, there's been a long running rumor of Apple potentially purchasing Tidal. So that may or may not happen. But overall, I think definitely you check out the SXSW or South by Southwest YouTube channel, and you can watch this for yourself. It's 45 minutes. And I reckon it's certainly made me pay more attention to the festival itself as well, particularly with other coverage for people like, you know, The Verge running their live podcasts and stuff from there. So I like the fact that it's this balance of, as you said, it's like brand activation along with, you know, it's mixing technology and music and film, and it's kind of just this all-in-one pop culture event. So,
as I said earlier, I was just sort of not expecting to enjoy this specific keynote as much as I did. So, yeah, I guess I've kind of like always followed South by Southwest in the background, but yeah, this is the first time they've actually watched some keynote from there. So it was pretty cool. But
I think they push it into the spotlight a bit more.
Yeah. There was a little bit of other news on some of the other things we've been covering. So as I said, Apple always somehow sneaks its way into some South by Southwest coverage, and we got a little bit of news out of the about carpool karaoke and some of our. I don't know if you've watched Game of Thrones. We've actually never spoken about it.
Oh, religiously.
Yeah, I've been surprised by people who say they haven't lately. So I'm going to not use my default as assuming everyone does. But yeah, we've got Sophie Turner and Macy Williams, who play the sisters Sansa and Arya. Stark on Game of Thrones coming to Carpool Karaoke, which will be pretty cool because, I think they've got a bit of personality outside of the show and they get along quite well apparently. So that should be, pretty cool. I've been keen for Carpool Karaoke for a while, but just, another bunch of people that we know.
A couple of celebrities in there. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. And yeah, so I liked I think with the tweet, someone wrote, what did they write? Game of Lanes? Or no?
Oh, yeah. It was some,
trying to mix Game of Thrones and Carpool into one little pun.
I knew you would like that.
Yeah. And yeah, also Apple Music, Chance the Rapper, he's come out and dropped some details on what an Apple Music exclusive is actually worth. So for anyone who doesn't know, Chance the Rapper is an independent artist. He's always made his music free, but he's just recently, I think, switched over to streaming platforms. And he was offered and took the offer, I assume, $500,000 for Apple Music to have the exclusive rights to his album Coloring Book for 2 weeks. And then after that point, he releases that music free on SoundCloud. So he's got a lot of criticism from his fans for this, used to getting tracks for free. I think that's ridiculous on the fans' part.
Absolutely.
To be complaining about, I love you, your music's awesome. And then it, suddenly they have to pay for it. Oh no, in this, as you said in a previous podcast, in this current generation where everyone wants everything now and free. I'm like, come on, just pay for the streaming subscription. It's a really cost efficient way of listening to music. And Chance himself had said that in response to this offer that he needed the money and that they're all good people over there, referring to Apple. And in terms of the need of the money bit, I can certainly agree with that in the sense that if he's touring and he needs to produce more stuff, and if he's just been running his music for free all this time and only making money through playing shows and merchandise and such like that, yeah, of course, it would be pretty ridiculous to turn it down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah. On the whole streaming wars topic, Chance the Rapper's thoughts were, he said, artists can gain a lot from streaming wars as long as they remain in control of their own product. Now, major labels like Universal Music are saying that they're not going to agree to any further exclusive streaming deals. So now Apple Music does it, and we know what it's worth for someone of Chance's level. Tidal does it. Spotify doesn't do exclusives. Do you think that's a good thing?
I don't think long-term exclusives are a good thing. I'll give the example of one that's not on Apple Music that I know frustrates quite a few people is Beyonce's Lemonade album. I don't think it's good for music overall for people to have to try and find where they can get different artists if they are embracing the streaming thing. It's like, if streaming is here and it's here to stay, then this kind of stuff isn't good. It's kind of like having other exclusive deal. Like, I don't really know the Australian sort of record stores. I haven't really seen any big chains, so I can't use a comparison there. But, if you had to go and find something that's only at one store versus another, it would get, how's someone to know offhand just where can I find Beyonce? It's just, you should just be able to go pick it up and go listen if streaming is around.
Do you know if they released it physically? The album Lemonade? Or is this purely like this is?
I think it's purely on Tidal. I'll have to
get it.
I think you can buy it on iTunes. I'll actually do a bit of research quickly. Some action in here, but
I don't normally Google Lemonade, so yeah. It's certainly interesting. This is like it's almost being held to ransom in a way.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think they're cool promotionally, like, for a little bit, like, like Super Mario Run, right, on iOS. Woohoo, they had a keynote. iOS users have had it for like 4 or 5 months, 4 months. I don't even know how long it's been. 3 months. 3 months now, let's say. And now it's coming to Android in March. So it's kind of like, cool, we had our fun, but I don't see why Android should never have Super Mario Run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I haven't come across the issue of having an artist I listen to be exclusive to a particular platform. I kind of feel like these exclusives, they seem to have been a lot with sort of mainstream and commercial hip-hop and R&B artists. Do you know of many other more? I, as I said before, I'm newer to the streaming thing.
The only other really big name that I can think of is Prince.
Okay, yes, yep.
Yeah. So Lemonade is available for purchase on iTunes. So it's $17.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
So it's purely just the streaming part.
Yeah, yeah. Which I still think is kind of like even more segmented then. It's kind of, you could buy it here, but I can't stream it here. Which used to happen a little bit in the early days of Beats One. They'd play music that wasn't available on streaming and you couldn't add it. And it was a bit like you're playing it on your platform, but I can't actually, like Adele, she didn't originally have it on streaming.
And so, but that Lemonade album's been out for a while, eh?
Yeah.
So this is this is certainly far beyond the 2 weeks that Apple Music is doing with the Chance album.
Yeah.
So I think this, in summary, kind of the gist we're getting at is exclusives are all right, if not for too long. So I feel like 2 weeks is pretty decent. So, okay, as I said, I'm newer to this streaming game. I've been buying CDs as long as I've been listening to music. So I kind of want to move on to a bit of a discussion about, can the physical music market and the streaming download market survive together? So I think everyone's assumed, just with the way everything's going, that CDs are going to be, and vinyl are going to be phased out. Stuff like vinyl's had a huge resurgence. There's still plenty of CD stores open. A lot of people like myself that still go out and buy them. So, as I said, I'm a recent Apple Music subscriber. Now, for years, I've been defending physical music. I was obsessed, and still am, with album art, the booklet, reading the lyrics, physically, having a big collection of CDs. I'd get really worked up about people who were just pirating music and, I'll just get it from LimeWire or whatever it was at the time. That worked me out really more because that was just plain stealing. Whereas how streaming platforms are being official and there is income that comes from it, that part, I'm totally cool with. So previously, with the way I felt about CDs and wanting them to retain that new quality, I'd buy a CD, then I'd burn a copy and I'd only play the burned copy. So my bought one was never played. So this is kind of the level, if you can understand, of how much I was holding on to physical CDs only. I was like, no, I don't want to go downloads. You don't get the booklet, you don't get the art, you can't hold it in your hands. And particularly when streaming came along, I thought, okay, well, this is great. I can listen to all this different music, but if I stop paying for it, I don't have access to it anymore.
Yep.
So, yeah. Now, subscribing to Apple Music, I get to listen to new singles straight away, full albums instantly, and how I treat it is that it's a small monthly cost, and if I really like the album, I'll buy the CD. So some bands, I'll just pre-order the CD regardless because I'm a huge fan. But I see this as a way to actually save money, because there's been plenty of times that I've just bought a CD, going to JB and think, oh, well, what do I need? And I'd buy 3 CDs. I'd be looking for something to buy, and some albums you go, oh, this is great. And then I was like, others, you'll bring them home or you listen to the car and you think, this probably wasn't the best purchase. So I feel like this is a good way to kind of really gauge music that I do enjoy. So before we hear your thoughts on this subject, I got some feedback from Buddy Watson from Review Culture Podcast. And he had to say,
Apple Music and Spotify are great tools for music discovery and having an enormous diverse catalogue at the push of a button at all times, but I feel it devalues music by having the choice to flick from one song to the next at ease. Purchasing CDs, vinyl and physical media is an investment and a show of support and passion for fans, and although it will most likely be converted and consumed digitally, it is the ownership and collecting mentality that keeps people buying.
And Buddy also said,
I feel that casual music fans would only consume music through radio, streaming services like Apple Music and Spotify, whilst the passionate hardcore fans would use and consume streaming services in conjunction with purchasing physical media. CDs will never die.
So Nick, you're a streaming-only guy now, and what do you think of this topic?
Yeah, so, I mean, to cover a bit of background, I definitely had my time with CDs and enjoyed CDs. I think the last CD that I actually properly purchased was a Kanye West album a couple of years ago, 2012, 2013. And then I moved over to Apple Music when it launched. I think I woke up in the middle of the night to update my software and get on it as soon as possible. So yeah, I love streaming music. I love the ability to just hear a song and immediately add it to my library and play it whenever I like. Or just, I've had this happen way more than anyone who would ever think, just listening to it. But I have, because I'm pretty new-ish to Australia, I have a lot of occasions where people will be like, oh, do you know that song or this artist? And I'm like, well, actually, I don't, because they're Australian and I don't know all the music. And then I'll listen to the song as soon as they tell me about it. And it's just, I think that's really cool. Like, oh, my friend got married to this artist, and I'm like, I don't even know who you're talking about. Then I can immediately listen to that song, which I think is really cool. Helps me stay in touch with what's going on, as well as just being really convenient for I really like Ed Sheeran. He just had a new album out, and immediately I'm listening to it, and I've played through the whole thing in the time that it would take to go and buy the album and copy and burn the CD if I was a little bit like you. But I find it to be just really convenient. I'm trying to get my parents over onto this kind of way about listening to music, because I don't think I can bear to teach them how to put music onto their iPhone otherwise. So I'm just trying to convince them.
Yes.
Luckily, South Africa has the cheap Apple Music, where it's only $6 a month versus the $12 that we pay. So there are a couple of countries like India, South Africa, the sort of developing countries that have a different tier, which is good. So I love
I didn't know that.
Streaming music. It's just, I think I'm too lazy to do anything other than that, and especially burn CDs. And I really don't like using my laptop, so it also allows me to have a laptop free or desktop free workflow when it comes to putting my music on my device.
Yeah, definitely. I think I like what Buddy was saying in that he feels that CDs are never going to die because there's the passionate people that are really into bands that just are going to want to own it. So they're going to want to own the physical things they put out. As I said, vinyl has had a huge resurgence. More and more bands I see, they're like, oh, here's our pre-order packages, and there's 6 to choose from involving CDs, special editions, one with they used to do the ones with DVDs, don't so much now, and then, the vinyl edition and the special, the vinyl comes in 5 different colors, and it's this fan base collector mentality has really come back out again. And so I feel like streaming is great for convenience, definitely, far more convenient than carrying around CDs, obviously, and then you've got to find somewhere to put that CD in. Obviously, I haven't seen something like a Discman for years and years. And yeah, I found this cool kind of compromise between the two where I'm happy to be in both and still have that want for the physical product, but I'm not just dropping money on however many CDs and just assuming that I'm going to really like them. So
I think that plays that is definitely a downside, which I definitely consider, is that, as big and as awesome as Apple is, I don't think Apple Music will last forever. I think, if it lasts for a decade, that'll be great. So what happens to this massive library that I collect by then? Who knows? I definitely won't be able to keep the music because I don't own it at the moment.
I never even thought of a finite, length of time for streaming platforms. What sort of made you think along those lines?
Well, I've sort of had a few storage kind of products in the past that haven't really lived up to, haven't really kept on going. And the only streaming service that we had in South Africa was RDIO. That was the only one that actually had license there. And I initially had an RDIO license or a subscription, but then they closed down. So it's kind of I've had this happen before, and I also know companies don't last forever, products don't last forever. And so I kind of just keep that in the back of my mind. More so than me thinking that Apple Music is not a success or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I kind of just assumed along the lines of that Apple is so big that, and they're fast approaching Spotify's heels, that I never even thought about. I just kind of thought, well, this is the future. This is a big part of their services area. And adding stuff like the video content and exclusive shows, I never even thought about something like that. But it is interesting. I mean, iTunes is still around, but more and more people are just switching over, being happy on a streaming platform. So yeah, certainly an interesting one. And I think moving on to the water cooler, I have a different topic to talk about: flexible displays. So what do I mean by flexible displays? Now, I'm not talking about, they had this flexible LED wallpaper that was released in 2012. It was produced by Architects Wallpaper in Germany, and it was patterned wallpaper that had fixed LED lights in it and they could change. So I'm talking more not just curved edge displays, but fully interactive touchscreen displays that can be physically manipulated. So whether they're bendable, foldable, rollable. There's been a lot of talk about this stuff and weird concepts and everything, but I want to discuss if we think it's a good or a bad idea, and then what the potential use cases are. So with some current examples, have you seen much in the flexible display space? There's not so much around in terms of official products that I've seen, but there's plenty of tech demos and that. So have you seen much of this sort of thing?
Yeah, I've seen it pop up every now and then over the past couple of years. I think the first real product that had a somewhat flexible display was I think it was the LG G Flex, which is not quite as flexible as we sort of discussing here, but it had a curved display, and then if it was flattened out, it was fine, and then could curve back into a bit of a banana shape. So that was a gimmicky approach, and I guess I'll start by saying that I'm not a huge fan of flexible displays.
Yep.
And that technology, especially in a lot of the areas that they rumored, I don't really like or see the need or identify with the need for a flexible tablet. I actually just like my iPad the way that it is, a rigid screen. I don't really want it to be bendy at any sort
flopping
of
around everywhere, yeah.
tactile strength. I just don't need it to be bendy, don't want it to be bendy. I'm not a fan of curved displays, and that's just one element of it. I'm a curved TV, so yeah, the kind of use cases I've seen in videos are like page turning the page on a book by flexing the display by concave or convex, okay. And convex pushes it so that the pages turn as if you're reading the book normally, and then if you flex it the other way, it kind of flicks back. So imagine the way you like could flick a magazine open and have the pages fan out. That's kind of the way it works. And other ways, like if you do that same movement, it like pulls the tension on an Angry Bird slingshot. Which, yeah, I don't know. I guess it also depends on what it actually, because apparently they have like the LG model has this bit of tactile feedback, so it feels like these things are happening, which, you know, we've seen in Apple's devices lately that tactile feedback can really mimic what we're used to things feeling like with the click, with the push of a button. And so I can see that sort of stuff adding to the effect versus me just watching it on a screen. But it had like a horrible plastic display on the prototype and just looked terrible. Looked like someone messed up their sticky see-through, I don't know what it's called, like clear tape. We used it to cover books in school.
Oh, contact.
Yeah, it just looks like someone messed up putting that over there. And yeah, also the possible date of release on this particular prototype was 2021. So still a bit of a way out, room for improvement, let's say. But my favorite use case, or like where I think it would actually be cool, is if you slid your phone into a bit of a wraparound VR/AR headset, like we've seen, I guess Google Daydream, but more wrapped around your face, so it's more more immersive. That is my only use case I could think of it being cool for.
Yeah, this one's been a hard one to think about because from the prototype videos I've seen, there was like a wrist wraparound and a foldable tablet, and they looked horrible, so gimmicky to me and pointless. The actual screen itself, I think that must have been the plastic covering. It looked like it was being crushed, like it looked like broken glass. And people have said stuff like, oh, imagine being able to fold and roll up your phone and put it in your pocket. I'm like, that sounds disgusting.
Exactly.
It sounds horrible. I don't roll up things and put it in my pocket anyway. If I want to, typically some people might roll up notes, but I keep them flat in my wallet. Do you know what I mean? The flat just makes so much more sense to me. And LG revealed like a rollable 18-inch screen, and then it was kind of almost like paper thin, but imagine something that's laminated. And I could see that being good for, say, people like architects when they carry around their drawings and be able to roll it out and then manipulate what's on the screen. But, and when they're pitching concepts and stuff. But aside from that, for just general users, I can't really I can't think of something that is going to be any better than the current rigid flat displays that we have. Now, there's no confirmation of glass being used in any of this yet. So all these prototypes have used plastic. The issue is that the plastic needs to be coated to prevent air and water getting in because plastic is semi-permeable. So maybe a plastic glass hybrid. But I was doing some research, and this month there's a new inexpensive flexible sensor was revealed. So the University of British Columbia created this new sensor that's highly conductive gel between silicone layers, and it can detect swiping, tapping, and pressure. So the reason it's so cheap is because the materials being used aren't expensive. So what's cool about this is this sensor can actually detect the difference between being stretched and touched. So I thought that was pretty cool, but in terms of actually putting it into a display, haven't seen anything like that yet. So I'm not heavily invested into researching this, but if anyone's really into flexible displays, or they've seen something that they think seems to have more point to it and far beyond a gimmick, please send them to us. We will announce our social accounts at the end on how you can contact us. So yeah, as I said, don't feel like I've seen anything that actually looks useful or is better than the current flat displays. So I think collectively we're not really feeling it.
How do you think Apple might implement this kind of technology in one of their future devices?
I can imagine them integrating a flexible display panel, whether it's partial or strip shape, into a watch band. So that would be the physically manipulated factor to it. Beyond that, maybe a form of a flexible iPad-sized device, but I don't know. Everything seems it'll be more fiddly and less productive. So I wouldn't expect to see anything in this space from Apple for at least 2 years. Yeah. But yeah, I'm only really saying, I'm just kind of grasping at straws, but some form of interactive watch band.
Yeah, that could be. I'm still, there are two Apple specific things that people are pushing for at the moment, which I really hope Apple doesn't go with. One of them being, smarter watch bands. So, I mean, if there's maybe a display, okay, but I'm just going to say no on the bands for now, integrated into the technology, like the actual watch face. And then, the other one is multiple different touch or tap things on the AirPods to have different taps on different ears doing different things because they feel like they're too limited. So those are the two things I really hope Apple just ignores. And when I can just pull myself back to the flexible displays here, I think they'll use it in some sort of VR thing, maybe as a standalone device. I don't expect it in iPads, pretty much for the same reason that we don't have a touchscreen Mac at the moment, which is not to say, like, I think people who don't know about Apple just see like, oh, Apple is so far behind, they don't have touchscreen on the Macs. It's like, no, that's actually not the case. They can do it. They have the money to do it and the ability to do it. They just don't see why we should be doing it and know that it's really crappy. So I think it's the same, the same here for flexible displays, or would be in the future, where there'll probably be the Samsungs of the world out with a flexible display and Apple just not doing it, and people will say, oh, Apple can't or isn't. But I think it's more of a usage scenario.
I think that's Apple's strength, is they don't, while people see it as not progressing, they don't jump onto every kind of latest fad, new technology there, or it almost instantly sense something that is just gonna either not last for a while or just become a failure, whether it's from an ergonomic level like with touchscreen Macs, or they haven't exactly come out with a foldable display or anything yet. So I trust them in that way. I like the fact that I feel like that Apple will have addressed all different possible areas, but they're just not going to dive headfirst into something, which is also good in our last episode, where I much prefer Apple taking the augmented reality route rather than virtual reality. So, all right, going to change it up completely. Appleverts. Just, I almost think this is just going to become a permanent section of the podcast, because it's almost like 2017. They just turned the tap on. And so we've got some more adverts. Sticker packs. I was really, really pleased to see this. Bit of a surprise. So it's an advert called Sticker Fight. It's 1 minute long. Has this cool kind of indie rock vibe to it. And the whole thing is promoting sticker packs in iMessage. So in the advert, everyone is kind of like partially desaturated and the stickers are really vibrant, so really accentuates them. It's mostly teens and young adults running around, kind of slapping these large animated stickers on each other, on all different sorts of people. And it has this cool kind of like school cafeteria food fight style acceleration where suddenly it just becomes hectic. Now, I've never actually been in one of those US high school movie cafeteria style situations, but it kind of plays out just like that. And it ends with iMessage and the actual sticker pack being used. So I love this because completely different vibe. And sticker packs haven't been forgotten. They were a big part of the last WWDC, and they seem to, I haven't used them too much lately, but they seem to be surviving quite well, and people are still talking about different sticker packs that they've bought. So, what do you recommend this style of advert?
Yeah, it was something different. I generally like Apple ads anyway, as I've said before. So, it's a little bit different. It made me want to download a sticker pack. Did I download one? No, but it made me want to. So, that was good.
Halfway there.
And I've already got iOS 10, so I guess maybe it's also to try and get people onto iOS 10. I don't know. But
So I guess you liked it enough to stick around for the end.
I think that's a good time to move on to one of the other apps.
Yes.
And you might feel at home with a pun on this
Oh,
one.
yes. I was waiting for that.
But
you really hit a home run with that one.
So, yeah. Anyway, this ad was 45 seconds.
This is the part where the listener base drops by half.
Yeah,
So
fair enough. I don't hold it against them. So yeah, this one is 45 seconds long. It demonstrates Apple's HomeKit efforts. So it's really pretty cool because it shows quite a slick automation and the convenience of having the devices and using them with a home app. So I think we've sort of heard around and looked ourselves at the website, and it's pretty expensive to get a setup, like especially like the one in the ad. I don't think it's even possible because in the ad they have the blinds, and I can't find the blinds locally. They don't sell them on Apple.com, and the places on. I think in America there was ones going for $3,000. Oh, really? Or something. They're really expensive. So I would imagine it's crazy. I have like 2 blinds near my TV that I guess if those were automated, that would be really cool. But I just can't find a way or how, which is frustrating. Which I think is the biggest downside to having this HomeKit stuff is like, it's not readily available to just go and pick up in a store. A lot of it is around builders and actually building it into your home from the start, or a lot of it you have to go source through looking at Apple's HomeKit page and then not through their store but through the third parties. So it's and then also the plugs. I don't know if we have Australian plugs. So look, this ad was really cool. It's got this woman showing that she has every Apple device, and she goes out like on a run, and it's got like this she's got a little scene for when she goes out running. So I'm assuming that would be like, don't turn off the aircon, but lock the front door, and then you've got like
lock the door,
lock everything down, and then it's switches off all the devices and turns off the thermostat, and you've got that kind of stuff. It also demonstrates her saying good morning to Siri, and the coffee machine turns on. That I think is a dream world. It's like, good morning, and then your coffee turns on, your blinds go up. So yeah, look, I've given a bit of a mishmash on how this ad was, but basically it just showcases HomeKit and how frustrated I am that I don't have this kind of setup. And my favorite part is just when she gets into bed and has her iPad, which obviously everyone knows I love my iPad, and just uses HomeKit, and it's just a dream world.
Yeah, it was, the whole time I was watching, I was like, that's awesome. Half of that's probably not available in Australia, and that's going to cost a lot of money. So I think, as we're pushing forward, a lot of this smart home, HomeKit type of stuff is becoming more available. So I just feel like this is a good ad, particularly shown in the US, but for us down here, it just makes us very jealous. So, but still very well shot. The only thing I thought was a little bit weird was her voice is the commands she's given are obviously very, quite up in the mix of the audio of the ad, to the point that I actually thought that she almost sounded like Siri, like she sounded a little bit robotic, a little bit overproduced, but
it's very like, quite obvious that it's recorded after the fact, versus like it being live action. So that
part of the scene. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, if you feel like watching something that you'll never have, go check it out. So moving on to appetizers. So we gathered some fan feedback from Apple Watch users, and we asked them, what's your favorite watch app and why? So this can be an Apple app or third party, so no preference there. So I asked Oscar, and he said Strava. He said his favorite app is Strava for sure. It's very convenient for starting and stopping and monitoring rides. The app shows live speed, time, distance, and heart rate. It collects all that data, stores it in the Strava app on his phone, and provides him with all these great stats about his cycling. So he's obviously a very keen cycler. And it achieves all this without him having to take the phone out of his backpack, which he says is one of the main reasons he bought the Apple Watch, which I can definitely agree with. And what's Michelle's favourite one?
Michelle reckons that camera remote is her favourite. So we use that quite a bit, and she uses it to basically get a picture of the whole person with a background. So we'll just leave the phone there and take a picture, which is pretty cool. And then she uses the workout and activity apps pretty much daily. Especially activity sharing and how motivating that is when other people reach their goal and trying to close all 3 rings. So yeah.
Cool. We also got a little bit of a celebrity factor here. Benjamin Mayo from 9 to 5 Mac, which is a site that Nick and I very much enjoy. Messages. So he just kept it to plain old Messages, which I definitely agree with because Messages is an awesome Apple Watch app. He says he doesn't really use third-party apps on the watch much. Messages he likes mainly because he can leave his phone in his bedroom or office while he's at home, and he uses the watch to reply to messages, and stuff like WatchOS 3 with Scribble definitely helps a lot there. I definitely agree with that. Leave my phone on the charger and I'm just replying to stuff even when I'm down in the backyard. He also uses tapback a lot on the watch, so when he's walking around or something, rather than having to get the phone out and give a reply, just gives the thumbs up straight from the watch notification. So very handy feature there.
Yep. And also from 9 to 5 Mac, we got some feedback from Zach Hall, who I think shares quite a few of the same passions as I do, because his favorite is the Nike Run Club app. And he said that he uses the Nike Run Club app daily now. But it's so similar to workout that he's not sure that it counts. And I certainly see that. There's a lot of overlap with like a leaderboard in Nike Run Club and the activity app. So I do prefer actually using Nike Run Club for logging a run than Apple's native app. But yeah.
Okay, yep. I suppose you'd have the Nike watch, so you're kind of compelled to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Although you're probably not going to be running through the desert.
I pretty much just have it for the band. I don't use the watch face, and I could download the app anyway, and I hate the Volt color, but yes, the band is pretty cool.
A few little gripes there. We found some Apple Watch gamers.
It can't be.
They just stumbled upon in front of my vision, and I'm very stoked that I found them. So Lance, who's from Review Culture podcast as well, he uses Messages mostly, but his favorite third-party app is Field Day, and that's the one that actually got the award for the 2016 Best Apps. And part of the Australian Apple Watch users Facebook group, Tiffany Hine, she says that she loves both farming sims, so Field Day again, and one called Farm Time. So I kind of think that maybe I need to check these out just to see whether there's much to the Apple Watch game factor for me. I don't feel like farming simulators are the biggest draw card for me, but hey, a lot of people having fun with them, particularly those two.
You do that and give us some feedback. One of my other friends, Caitlin, uses activity also. She's triathlete, so big into obviously running, cycling and swimming, so uses her Apple Watch for that. She does get a rash from the band though, so I'm trying to convince her to get Watch Series 2 for swimming, and then also she uses it for weather, which is quite a common use case for me too. And I just remembered when we were going over this, one of my colleagues recently got an Apple Watch, and he says he uses dictionary a lot he downloaded this dictionary app, and he was like just really stoked with just being able to use the dictation, and you just dictate the word straight into the watch and it just tells you what it means, and just he really loves it. I don't know why, but he like kept demoing it, and he's just awesome. Really proud of it. So
well, these apps exist for a reason, and yeah, he's one of them. So speaking of word related apps, I also grabbed one recently, iTranslate.
Oh yep.
Just speak it into there, and you can translate it straight from the watch. That was awesome. So I thought for the day that I do actually venture outside Australia, I'll be able to test that one in real life.
Did you try any languages in particular?
I had to. Someone contacted us, the podcast page, and I think he was from Germany.
Right. And
I needed to. I think I was just like trying to test out the best way to pronounce something. Not cool. That I was going to be speaking to him. I just it was quite interesting. So we're going to finish up with some edible extras. Amazon Alexa on iPhone, apparently. How did this even happen?
Yeah, I haven't really looked too much into it, but basically they've Amazon's baked Alexa into the normal Amazon app rather than having it as a standalone. So I haven't actually gotten my hands on it, but Amazon is, Alexa is pretty powerful. It can control home stuff too. It's quite like Siri and Google Assistant in that it can give you results to queries, tell you information about what's going on in the world, read you news. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly which of those features are coming to the iPhone, but if you're keen on Alexa, you can give that a go.
Yeah, I downloaded to check it out. I downloaded the Amazon app and it hadn't rolled out yet.
Right.
So this is apparently rolling out progressively over the week. So by the end of this week, I'd say it should be completely out there. So, while I was on the Amazon app, by pure coincidence, I hardly ever buy from Amazon, but I downloaded the app to check this out. And at the same time, found out about something that got me super excited. So a graphic novel of the iTunes term and conditions has been released. So how is this even possible? A cartoonist, Robert Sikoyak, had been working on this since 2015. So across 94 pages, and in full color, you can buy it for $10 US, or it was $28 Australian for me, including the shipping. And so I bought this instantly. So what it's about is it takes a whole load of famous comics. So you've got ones like Garfield, Wonder Woman, Peanuts, and even on the cover, it's Steve Jobs as Wolverine. So basically, Steve Jobs, in his jeans and his trademark black turtleneck, appears as the main character in every comic throughout the book as it explains to you the iTunes terms and conditions. So you're literally reading a series of whole different comics with Steve Jobs as this prominent character throughout, whilst also reading the iTunes terms and conditions. Like, I saw the cover and I was like, I have to buy that. One click, and I did it.
It is pretty cool. I didn't realize it was so cheap. I don't see that as expensive. I think maybe the Design by Apple in California set cool Apple-related books at a really high bar for me. But $28, yeah, that's pretty cool collector's item.
It's just, I didn't even know that someone, obviously the whole reason behind this is people had been, consistently over the years been making fun of the iTunes terms and conditions, being like, who really reads through all that anyway? Well, this explains to you exactly what you're agreeing with by agreeing to the terms and conditions, but in a fun comic form, featuring none other than Steve Jobs. So, yeah, as soon as it arrives, I'm definitely going to give my review on it.
I'm pretty sure there's like some reference to not making nuclear weapons using iTunes in those terms and conditions.
Yeah, they throw in some. So there's some other
gets pretty weird
piece of comedy.
But
yeah. So
that'll be cool, and hopefully you'll read every word and report back to us on what we're agreeing to.
Yes, definitely. I think I was just I got a little bit too crazy. I was like, I gotta get it on board, and I was just like, cool. Now what? So I'm just playing the waiting game.
When is it coming? Do you know?
Well, it was dispatched yesterday, so I haven't checked the tracking yet, but.
So there are a couple of new Apple stores opening. There's one in downtown Miami, which will be the largest in America. There's one in, forgive me for pronunciation, but Jinmao in China.
I think it's
Nanjing
Jinmao.
Yeah, something. I'm sorry.
Nanjing Jinmao.
Jinmao.
In China.
And then...
There we go. Yep.
Schildergasse, I'm assuming Schildergasse, which is shopping street in Cologne, Germany. Yep. Those are the three new ones opening up. And on March 25th, doors open at 10 a.m. And they've previously given away Apple t-shirts to early customers, which I think is pretty cool. Maybe we'll have to get down to Melbourne opening to get some cool t-shirts whenever that opens.
Yeah, so it's always cool when you get to see just the images of all the different styles of Apple stores, because they do while inside layout can remain very similar, I just love seeing the buildings themselves, like ones where they've got brand new buildings and ones where they've built it into kind of more of the style of the city. Just like the variation that you get with Apple stores.
Yeah, I really like the ones that are built into into the style of the city. That's why I like the Brisbane one so much. It's a really nice store.
That brings us to the end of episode 23 of Apple Size. Of course, if you'd like to contact us or, as I said, send us examples of flexible tech you like and stuff like that, Apple Size is on Instagram and Facebook with Apple Size Podcast, on Twitter with Apple Size AU. And yeah, even the other topics that we discussed, do you think exclusive music deals are unfair? Then you can let us know there. Or you can now email us, and the address is listen@applesize.com.au. Little bit of a hint with something that's coming around the corner. So aside from that, if people want to subscribe, where can they do it?
Yeah, they can subscribe, obviously, in the podcast app, in Stitcher, TuneIn, Pocket Casts, or most other podcast players. And always appreciate a rate and review on iTunes.
Awesome. Definitely encouraged that there. And I'd like to thank the Apple Watch fans that contributed this episode, particularly Zach and Ben from 9to5Mac, and Buddy Watson also in our streaming versus physical music topic there from Review Culture Podcast. So, Nick, is there any final bits to add?
No cool stories about me chatting to Scott Forstall this week, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's it from me.
Alrighty. It's been great having a talk to you, and I'll catch you in the next episode.
Cheers.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.